I think it's, first thing, I think it's unfair that we have to be up here with Marion. Simply because Marion is a wonderful, wonderful storyteller. Well, you are, Marion.
I can tell some today, can I?
Yes, you can. Because he's about Orrville, and you know some great Orrville stories.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, sure
I
about
didn't grow up in Orrville.
I know, but I know about a tree in Orr Park. You remember?
Well,
No, you're telling that story.
who told you that? Me?
Yes. Yes. You tell everybody that story, because that's a great one.
Well,
I'm going to start talking about jobs. When we were growing up, it was the Depression years. I was born in 1926. We were in the Depression years. There weren't jobs. And for those of you who are out there who were in that age group, and I don't see any at all, that was a tough time for our country. We were a poor country, and there's just no question about that. But the funny part of it was, kids my age, from 12, 11, 10, and on, we all had part-time jobs as part of a family thing. Part of a family thing that doesn't exist today. My first job, we had a milk route that went from house to house to house. First it was a horse that pulled it. The horse knew the route better than the guy that was delivering the milk. But this milk route went in the north end of town. There were milk routes all through town. And all day Saturday I worked from that milk route. I had a little container which held I think 4 bottles of milk. We would take them in the house. Houses weren't locked back then. You just walked in the door. We didn't have refrigerators. We had ice chests. You'd walk in, put the milk in, whatever they normally got. Sometimes the money for payment was on the counter. Sometimes it wasn't. Maybe they paid by the week or month. But everybody trusted everybody. That was my first job, 50 cents a day. A lot of kids our age worked at the Delisandro farms on, not Burton City Road, but the Swamp Road. The Swamp Road was the one that goes from Orr Street that comes down to Burton City. On the north side of that, there were a lot of onion and radish and vegetable farms. There was a guy named Catrone who had a cart. And every day that cart was uptown by the A&P. He had his own vegetable garden, and he sold vegetables. There was another guy who, for the ice box from the city, had their own municipal ice plant. And they delivered ice, big chunks, 150 pounds. He had an ice pick here. He would pick it to the size you needed, put it over his back, carry it in the house with the tongs, deliver it, but we'd get the chips. That was the upside. Down the Swamp Road in those onion farms, kids started working down there. Mary, you're at it already, aren't you?
She's close to going to the principal's office.
He's not even here.
I can tell, they can fire me anytime, I don't care.
But kids worked down there, and it was 9 hours, and you got paid for 10. 10 cents an hour. Down on your knees, and if you've ever been down there, it's dark muck, they called it. And really could grow vegetables. Then the vegetables were sold to Cleveland. They would take them up by truck and sell them up there. Farmers market there, sort of thing. Just to the east of that, on the Burton City Road, was a place we used to call the Thickets. And the thickets were just real thorny. Oh, you just didn't even want to go in there. It was just so thick. But the worst part was there were rattlers in there. They finally put hogs in there, and they no longer called it the thickets. At age 14, something like that, I sold daily records on the passenger trains that came through here. I worked at Moser Service Station, which used to be at the corner of Orr Street and Main. The first thing they did was ask me to go and find a skyhook. Oh, you're not old enough for that one. A skyhook just didn't exist. But I was the new guy in the block, and that's what they sent me to find. I stocked shelves at Kroger's. But during the war, we had a work program. There were 16 million men and women in World War II. That was 1/6 of our population. Somebody needed to work. So the women started working, and the students started working. So we had a work program. If there was a war-related industry, you left school at, I think it was 1:30, something like that, and went to work in a war industry, one of which was Ellsworth Hafner. Anybody know what that is? Ellsworth Hafner was a harness factory. And a harness was a critical industry. We didn't have trucks like we have today. There were horses. The horses produced the food that we needed for the country and for the troops. That was a critical industry. Worked at Quality Castings, grinding, Copper's Company. You know, railroad ties, you go by the railroad, you see these trains come in, all that weight. Well, underneath the rails are railroad ties, like this, 8 by 8 maybe, all real heavy wood. But the stress of the train would break those ties, so you had to put S-iron in. One edge was real sharp. You had to take a 4 or 5 pound sledge, tap it in, and then do that. That was piecework. I didn't make much money. I was probably 115 pounds at that time. Now, one of my good friends is Herb Flint. Probably no one in this group except Dave would know him. He happens to be Dave's nephew. Grew up in Orrville and right across from the street from my aunt and uncle. I've talked to him, and he began work at Kohler's Bakery on Saturday as delivery man. He received $2 and lunch. But he also told the story about washing trucks and working in the factory at Smucker's when he was 14. Earned 29.5 cents per hour. One Saturday he was washing trucks when the phone rang, and was President Willard Smucker saying, "Who is this and who's in the plant?" Well, it was early afternoon and everybody was going except the mechanic who was under a truck. Herb said, "I'm Herb Flint, I'm the only one around here." He said, "We're going to put a new concrete sidewalk in front of the office on Monday, but it's not finished so that they can do that, and they won't clean it up. We have to." So he said, "I want you to bring a pick and a shovel and a wagon around here and wheelbarrow, and we need to clean it up." So Herb went out and with Willard Smucker, and they picked this clean, got it all ready for the Monday. And today, if you ask him, "What did you do when you were working at Smucker's?" he said, "I was the administrative assistant to the president."
Never touched it.
One more thing, my first check came from Smucker's. I had a wagon, like every other kid did at that time, went along the railroad, picked out elderberries, filled it with their old elderberries, took it down to the Smucker Company, they weighed it, I got a check for 35 cents. I'll go to somebody else now.
Huh?
Go ahead, you have a question?
No, I don't.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You don't have to tell about my life like you did?
yes, that's what the purpose of this. Memories.
Well, I got a lot of memories.
I bet you do.
But I made, my first job, I mowed yard with a push mower and for 50 cents.
Did you really? Okay.
Yes. I saved up about her dress.
Can everybody hear her? Okay.
Well, I didn't know I was going to be setting up here the first thing. I just had a few things planned that he said a couple questions he was going to ask. So, well, I didn't grow up in Orrville, but Dick says nobody's going to know where Moreland is, but that's where I grew up. Who knows where Moreland is? Yay! And I was a farmer's daughter, and I was proud to grow up on a farm. And because I think you learn to work, you learn a lot, and I always was proud to say I grew up on a farm. In fact, when I went to Worcester High School, don't anybody throw stones, I graduated from there.
You know you're done?
Good.
Time's up.
Yeah, but there's where I met, how many of you knew my husband, Ray Starn? That's where I met Ray. Well, not exactly, but he did go to high school there, and I saw him there, and in fact was in the same class. He came back after graduated, and we were taking typing or something, and he came back and he was, I can see him sitting in that back seat back there, and the teacher said that Raymond Starn has decided to come back and take some extra work after graduated, and I just saw him sitting back there. I later down through the years, I thought, good land, that's, what would I thought if I knew that was the man I was going to marry? And I think that's what you're talking about, the tree in the tree in the park. I don't know why I told you that, but it's nice, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
nice.
it really is. It's
Well,
nice.
Ray grew up in Orrville, and so he would bring me back here sometimes, and he lived right across from the park, and when he grew up, he lived here, and so he'd take me down to the park. We've got our names carved on the trees down there, and I haven't been able to find them lately. I think you cut them off.
No, they're too tall. You need a big ladder.
Well, I couldn't find them, but anyhow, yes, we carved our names there, and I was only 18 when I got married, so and he was 21, so, but.
That's 15 years ago.
Well, we almost married 60 years, so okay. And then what else? Well, when I graduated from high school, I started to work at William Annett Company, and I probably had a job that none of you maybe knew anything about. I worked in the alteration department, and I had a little room by myself up there. I worked by myself up there, and it was during the World War II, and I don't know if you remember, it was hard to get silk hose because they were using them for the blimps or something in the army, and so people were having their hose mended. So I was taught how to take snags and runners out of hose, and I did that for a long time, and I got paid for it too. And I still have a couple of those hooks, but I don't bother to fix mine.
Bet not.
But it was an interesting job, and then that's when I was going with Ray, and he was pretty much boss, and he said, "My wife is not working." And he liked to take care of his family, so I had to quit. So I didn't do any more hose. And that's okay. He worked hard, took good care of us. So he said, "My wife's not working." So I didn't. I quit. And then after that, I lived. Columbiana. That's where he had a job down there. So I lived there a little while, and then, oh gosh, he had a lime company, and I helped with that, doing the books and stuff. And then he's been a pipeliner. I grew up in a pipeliner family, which it's interesting. My brothers were pipeliners, and then my brother Paul was Ray then went in business with my brother. And so that's, you probably heard the name Wharton Starn. I'm Wirt, and now I'm Starn.
Right.
So one day I said, they had Wharton Starn on a truck there, and I went by and said, "Hey, I'm the only one that's got both of those names. That must be my truck." But anyway, let's see what else. Oh, I was we moved to Orrville in 1957, March. And I talked too much, but I might as well tell why we moved. I was pregnant, and we needed a bigger house, and I sure got one, didn't I? We needed more bedrooms. There's 17 and a half years between my oldest child and my youngest one, and I said, "Ray, we can't put that baby in the bedroom with those teenagers." And he was so happy that he was going to have more children. He loved children and babies, and I said he'd bought the Taj Mahal, a hall to buy if I'd have this. Yeah, well, he was so happy, and so he came over here to Orrville, and we looked at where Bill Bear lived, and then well, he just heard we were looking at that, and he wanted to sell his house, so he called us, and so we bought it. And so the reason, next time you see Don, you can tell him that we are in Orrville because I needed a bigger bed. So anyhow, and that was a happy time. And
Well, Marion, we might need to move on to Dick here.
oh, good.
Okay, Dick, why don't you go ahead and we'll have Henry finish up here.
All right. I graduated in 1946. And I like Bob, I worked at a milk route in the south end of town in those years. And then I had a paper route at the same time. And finally I was fortunate enough to, when I got 14, to get a job with Bernard Schneider in the gas station. And I worked for him after school on Saturdays the whole time through high school. And I went in the military. And it says here, what's the best place to eat in Orrville? And a lot of us remember the Manhattan Restaurant, which is there no more. I mean, and that was a good place to eat. They had the best noodles. And I'm at a loss for words.
You're doing fine. Dick was the milkman when I was little. He was the guy that delivered milk to our house. And that probably shortly after that you guys stopped delivering milk. I don't know, but I know they still did that when I was little.
I worked for the cemetery. I had several different routes, and I went to swinging routes and all over. And I had 34 years there. And I retired from there in 1990. And they were probably glad to get rid of me. But, you know, but anyhow, I had a good time, and I was very happy that I was born and raised in Orrville. I don't know of any other place that I'd rather be than Orrville.
That's great. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, good to hear.
Yeah. There's just been so many things go, Dave, but I didn't write them all down like Bob did. I didn't know just how this was going to be, but
Well, Dick got surprised. He just found out he was going to do this yesterday. I asked him yesterday. So.
I got a surprise when I got home.
Yeah, we appreciate that a lot. All right, Henry?
My name is Henry Durden. I was not raised in Orrville, but I come here in 1964. And after coming here, I come looking for work. And the first person that hired me to work here was Slick Denver at Westinghouse in 1964, October the 1st. And I worked there until Westinghouse closed. And I enjoyed the job because it was a good paying job at the time. And at the time, you could walk out of one place and go to the next door and find a job. Orrville was a booming place for industry back in the 60s. Orrville was a beautiful place to raise kids to go to school. At the time when you come here in the 60s, you could leave and go to Worcester and go all over town and leave your house wide open. And you come back and everything was still the same when you left and come back home. But today, if you decide you're out on the patio or outside doing something, and you decide to go in and use the restroom, you better lock the doors behind you because time have brought on a big change in Orrville. Orrville still is a wonderful place to live and to raise kids. But there's no industrial that when kids graduate to come back here to fulfill their lifestyle in Orrville. Anymore, they have to further go other places to live and make a better living. Smuckers is a good place to work, which my wife worked there. I enjoyed working at Westinghouse. I done for 25 and a half years with Westinghouse. And after working there, they sold to Rosemont, and I stayed there. At least they kept me on there. And I done another 14 or more years there, and all together with Westinghouse and Rosemont, I done a total of 41 and a half years with those two places. But I enjoy living in Orrville today. I live in Orrville, I keep telling people I live on Linden Avenue. It's another city of Orrville where the old folks live, and I'm glad to be there. You go there and you get a chance to enjoy life. You don't get to hear the rigmarole of kids running and people cussing and raising sand. There is nothing there but old people. When you drive down through there on Linden Avenue, everybody's standing out and welcoming you with a beautiful smile. And one of the biggest places that I enjoyed going to in the afternoon after a hard day's work was, used to call it the root beer stand, was Casey, to get a root beer float. That was the best root beer that Orrville ever presented in this town. And one of the other things that I enjoyed around Orrville is being here and raising my kids here. But life has brought on a big change in Orrville today. There's not the good times it used to be. Today, Orrville is completely turned all the way around. They have let things happen here that shouldn't be happening. And we are stuck in a mold today. And when I come here, there was all kinds of stores here. There was marijuana, a clothing store. There was Pearl of Steam there. They had everything you wanted to buy at Pearl of Steam. There was Smith's Grocery, but now you don't have those stores here. There's no place in Orrville today to buy clothes in Orrville. We's in a rut. Time have made a big change, and I still enjoy living here though. And one more thing I have to say about how I feel about Orrville. I feel Orrville is a good industrial factory for family peoples. And after that, you have to make a change in life as the younger generation come on.